The death of the US dollar. Not only will it happen, but it must happen. All right, so let's talk about it. This is the Hey Ed YouTube channel, and I am your host, moderator, and all-around nice guy, Edward Anderson. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't construe anything that I mention in any of my videos as financial advice. Always do your own research before doing anything with your money. Today, we're going to be talking about the death of the US dollar. And I'm going to tell you why not only is the US dollar going to fail, but that it must fail. And I'm not going to just tell you how to survive this calamity, but how you can actually prosper from it. Now, this is one of those videos where I did an awful lot of prep for this presentation, and I had tons of charts, and I realized there's no way I'm going to get you guys to sit through an hour-long presentation. So I boiled it down. The important thing is that I want you to conceptualize what I'm talking about so that you can appreciate the magnitude of what's going on. So I am just going to show you enough facts and figures to prove to you that I am not making this stuff up, okay? But I'm going to cut to the chase as soon as I can. So please stay with me throughout the entire video here. And if you don't mind, give this video a like and share it because we need to get this word out. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so the first topic we need to cover is the topic of inflation, because this is relevant to the entire message I'm getting across. Okay, so the Federal Reserve horror show. Okay, so the Federal Reserve takes on inflation, the war against inflation. So back in June of 2020, the Federal Reserve famously said that they are not thinking about raising rates. And they even said they're not even thinking about raising rates. Now, this is when inflation was going up. And I was doing videos telling you guys that inflation was here. But apparently, according to the Federal Reserve, what inflation? Now, the Federal Reserve had been trying for a long time to actually create inflation, all right? And they were doing that by pumping all sorts of money into the markets. And the markets saw that as free money. And so that's why the market during a 2-year period there was on a sugar high. The markets were not going up because of any fundamentally good reasons. They were going up because of all the free money that the Federal Reserve was pumping into the markets. So the Federal Reserve, first and foremost, is a political animal. They're not looking out for you. Okay, let's get that straight. Okay, the Federal Reserve isn't, first of all, it's not a government organization. This is a private bank. And every time I say that, people are always surprised to learn that the Federal Reserve is not a government agency. It's a private bank. So as inflation was going up, the Federal Reserve kept denying its existence. So then in April of 21, about a year later, they said that inflation was transitory. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. And then finally, in November of 2021, a few months after that statement, they had their oops moment. Oops, well, okay, I guess we were wrong. I guess there really is inflation. So they started making noises about how they're going to fight inflation, how they're going to take it on, and they're going to get it under control. And ever since then, they've been raising interest rates dramatically because that is the Federal Reserve's primary tool in fighting inflation. Now, you have to understand that, ironically, the process of fighting inflation is to make your lives miserable. They do not want you spending money because that's one of the things that causes inflation. So they're doing everything they can to make your lives difficult. Because by raising rates, it's more difficult to make mortgage payments, more difficult to buy a car, more difficult to live your life. Everything becomes more expensive. So this whole process of fighting inflation is about making your life as miserable as possible because they want you to stop spending money. And if that means that your lifestyle has to suffer because of it, so what? So be it. Because their primary concern, according to them, is to fight inflation. And to do that, they've got to get you to stop buying things. So we have seen the most dramatic rate of interest rate hikes in history, even more than what Paul Volcker did back in the 1970s. But they've been failing miserably. The month-over-month CPI number is essentially exactly the same. So they've not been able to convince you people out there to stop spending your money. Apparently, you have not felt enough pain yet. Inside of the Federal Reserve and the financial markets in general, there is a term called sticky inflation. So that refers to a basket of items that people use on a daily basis. And that year-over-year number on February 14th came in at 8%. And the Federal Reserve also has another very important metric that they use to judge their success, and that is what they call their wage growth tracker. And here you can see that their wage growth has been increasing. That's not what they want. So the more they keep raising rates to try to get you to stop spending money and to stop making money, the more money people out there are making net. Now, I'm not going to go down this particular rabbit hole because, again, I'm trying to respect your time. But let's just say that their efforts to make your lives miserable are failing. People are still buying. People are still making a little bit more money than they did before. They want to impoverish you. That is their intention. Let's be clear about that. So they don't like to see you making money. They want to see you dirt poor. And a lot of people are. There's a lot of stuff that's hidden in these numbers that are not really talked about. And they're the things that we all know day to day because we live lives. But these are the official numbers that they go by in order to make their decisions. So for purposes of this video, let's just say that the Federal Reserve has been failing in their attempts to fight inflation. And that takes us on to our next topic, and that is that the government is broke. Now, this, of course, is no surprise to anybody, right? Of course they're broke. We have right now a $31.5 trillion debt load. Now, this is one of the areas that I had a very elaborate part of the presentation, and I'm going to cut to the chase on this one, is that the tax revenues have been declining dramatically because the truth of the matter is that wage tracker aside, people are making less money. I mean, at least the money that they're bringing in is buying a lot less, right? Plus, all the draconian measures that the government put our country through over the last couple of years because of that worldwide flu that we had, they forced businesses to shut down. Well, when you shut down businesses, there's no money coming into the treasury. People are making less money, so tax revenues have been going down. So we have a period here where interest rates are going up and the cost of servicing that debt is going up. At the same time, the money coming into the treasury through tax receipts is going down. I'm not going to bother with the chart on here. Just trust me that but the movement down in tax receipts is dramatic. It's the largest in history. This issue of a reduction in tax receipts has put the Treasury Department in a very desperate position because what they're doing now is they're making efforts to tap pension funds in order to keep us from going bankrupt, in order to keep up with the pace of things. This creates another issue because the Federal Reserve does not have enough tax receipts in order to keep up with all of their payments, with all their expenditures. So they're starting to resort to desperate measures like looking at tapping pension funds. So these are the crazy little schemes that they're coming up with in order to keep us afloat. And the government actually puts out data on this information, referring to the ratio between the federal expenditures versus interest payments on our debt. And if you look at this chart, you can see it's just going up and up and up. So once again, all these efforts to raise interest rates and make our lives miserable is not paying off. They're losing the war against inflation. But in addition to those internal issues that we are also being attacked from the outside. We have global actors attacking the US dollar. Now we're getting into the tall grass a little bit. So a lot of this, you're just going to have to take my word for it unless you want to look and do it on your own. Recently, a publication was put out by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China. Now this is actually an official report, and it's a very detailed report about how they feel about world economy and all the rest of it. Now, inside of that presentation, they made several points, accusations, if you will. Whether you agree with their assessment or not is not the issue. The truth is, this is what they believe. This is what they think, and it does affect us. They see the U.S. as a financial global predator. They see us as a purveyor of worldwide destruction, and the U.S. dollar is our primary tool in order to do that. And one of the points they made in that report, which is interesting and is true, is that it costs about 17 cents to make one of these. Okay. Now, whether it's a $100 bill or a $1 bill, okay, it costs about 17 cents to produce it. But let's say you spent 17 cents in order to produce this little piece of paper. But if you want to get this piece of paper, you have to sell $100 worth of goods in order to get that $100 bill. But it only cost us 17 cents, to make. And that's the paper dollars. And a lot of our dollars are digital. And those don't take any money, to make. Just push a button. It's the cost of the salary for the guy that you hire to push the button to create dollars out of thin air. But the point is, from the Chinese point of view, is that we export our inflation to other countries around the world, and we take advantage of other countries' financial situations. By the way, it's not just China that feels this way. Russia feels this way. Brazil feels this way. There's a whole group of world leaders out there that have gotten together to create an alternative currency to the US dollar. Now we're getting to the nub of this whole topic. The US dollar, up until now, has been the world's reserve currency, and it still is. But now we have a lot of countries saying, you know what, we're going to start turning toward other currencies. The big dog in this fight was Saudi Arabia. Just very recently, Saudi Arabia said that they're going to start doing oil transactions in the Chinese yuan and the Russian ruble. So the petrodollar, which was a dominant currency in the world for over 50 years, is now losing its prestige. And other countries are starting to see, well, if they can do it, maybe we should be doing it, because the U.S. is not treating us very well. I'm just giving you their point of view. But the point is that these countries are waging an all-out active economic war against the United States. Now, this has been going on for a while. World War III has been going on for a few years now. Yeah, it might not be an actual shooting war yet, but it is an actual war against the U.S. dollar. It is their way of taking us down without having to fire a shot. These people are pretty creative. Right? They got to give them some credit. A lot of the economists in these other countries are a hell of a lot smarter than our economists. The West is a debt-based society, okay? We have built our civilizations on debt. And so what you're seeing here is you're seeing a concerted effort to move away from the U.S. dollar. And all these dollars that are right now being used for international business, international trade, international transaction, they're going to be coming flooding back to our shores. That is going to accelerate our inflation. Now, with our debt levels going bigger and bigger and bigger, and our politicians have no respect for money, you can see the way they've been spending money. I'm not going to go into all the stories here. Again, I'm going to respect your time. But there's absolutely no effort to curb our spending. And since tax receipts are going down while our spending is going up, our debt load is going to get bigger. And as interest rates go up, the cost of servicing that debt is also going to go up. Now, a lot of our debt was refinanced when rates were low, okay, at the 1.5 to 1.7% level. But starting a few months from now, a lot of that debt is going to fall off the books, and we're going to have to refinance at higher interest rates. And that's when things are really going to hit the fan. So as our tax receipts go down, but our expenditures keep going up, this is unsustainable. So there's only one solution. And now we're really getting down to it. This is the thumbnail, okay? Where not only is the dollar going to fail, but it has to fail. The only solution is to print more money. That is our only solution. Now, there is value in scarcity. Okay, we know that with vintage cars and old comic books, you know, there's value in scarcity. And when you're printing more money, you're devaluing, you're debasing the currency. That's the official term, right? Debasing our currency. That is what's going to happen. We're going to be debasing our currency. So the value of our currency is going to be going down even more. Now, since 1913, the buying power of the US dollar has already gone down by 95%. And with this upcoming debasement, it's going to be even more. The little crumbs that we have left in our buying power is going to be destroyed even more. Now, this might go on for a few years, but it's going to be a painful process. You're going to feel it. We're already feeling it. Anybody who owns a house, anybody who lives a life is already feeling this. Now, as the Federal Reserve continues to fail to get inflation under control, you're going to see more and more analysts calling for much higher interest rates for a longer period of time, because inflation is not under control. And that is their way of getting inflation under control. Remember, that process is all about making your lives miserable. It's about making you poorer. That is what the net effect of this war on inflation means to you, is that your lives are going to become more difficult. The Federal Reserve is purposely trying to make you poor. That is their objective. I mean, you won't hear Jerome Powell say that in a congressional testimony, but that is the net effect of this war on inflation. Now, the CBO actually came out with an official report saying that our current policies are unsustainable. We cannot sustain them, that we cannot keep up the interest rates on our debt. So again, they're going to have to print more money. It's about printing money, printing money, printing money. That's what it's all about. The value of our dollars are going to go down. If you think that inflation cannot go up quite a bit more, take a look at what went on in Turkey, and take a look at what went on in Venezuela. Take a look at what went on I'm not going to go through the whole litany here, okay? But we're not immune to this. Now, the reason why I titled the thumbnail, The Death of the Dollar, and why I told you at the beginning of this video that the dollar must die, it must fail, is because we are putting ourselves in a position here where we have no choice. We're going to have to print more money, which is going to debase our currency. Now, even if the currency doesn't disappear completely, the net effect is that your dollars are going to buy you much less in the future. Now, consider this. Fiat currencies, in our case, the US dollar, has a 100% failure rate. Every fiat currency that's ever been created by man has failed. The US dollar is the longest lasting one so far, and so far is still the world reserve currency, but that is under attack. And that is eventually, at some point, it is going to go away. And again, even if it doesn't go away completely, the value of the dollars, the buying power of the dollars are going to go down dramatically. What can you do about it? Well, the most important thing you can do is get some of your fiat currencies into these guys, gold and silver. You have to move some of your assets into gold and silver. Gold and silver is not just for the wealthy, okay? And when you put your money into gold and silver, you're not buying anything, okay? You're just moving your assets from a really lousy asset class into a solid one. A fun little fact for you. Whereas fiat currencies have a 100% failure rate, gold can be dated back to the Chalcolithic period. Yeah, between 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. So here you have gold and silver that's been around for 5,000 years being used as barter, being used as money, whereas fiat currencies have all failed. Now, I am going to be doing a separate video about on this topic more thoroughly. I'm going to go down this rabbit hole a little bit to explain this to you. But for now, just trust me that gold has maintained its value and gone up quite a bit. Now, I'll demonstrate this in the other video versus the US dollar. So at the same time, the US dollar has lost over 95% of its buying power. The buying power of gold has gone up 4,500%. Again, we'll cover that in the other video. So when the stuff hits the fan and the value of the US dollar gets destroyed, and if you manage to maintain your buying power in gold and silver, you're going to be in a position to go out and scoop up a lot of really nice stuff for pennies on the dollar. Whatever you want. I mean, you name it. Real estate, luxury cars, whatever, travel. You'll be able to do it because you preserved your buying power. There are really 3 recommendations that I'm constantly giving on this channel. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy on YouTube, right? I mean, I know some stuff, but number 1, you have to reduce your exposure to your bank. Get some of your money out of your bank because it's not safe there and it's losing buying power. Number 2, put some of that money into gold and silver. And number 3, establish streams of passive recurring income. I can't help you with the first one about getting your money out of the bank. That's on you, but I can help you with the other 2. So if you want to reach out to me, my contact information will be in the description below. My email is there, so send me an email. And I would love to have you join the Hey Ed WhatsApp group. It's a wonderful group of people. We talk about this kind of thing all the time, and we're having a lot of fun. And a lot of people are really improving their lives a lot because of the stuff that we are learning to do in the Hey Ed WhatsApp group. If you'd like to join that group, send me an email, and I'll send you a link to join. So if you don't mind, please give my video a like and subscribe if you haven't, and share. Let's get the word out on this. Ed Anderson, live from Minnesota, signing out.
Copy that.